There is a player evolution happening right now. It's with the midfield stars of the competition who are now playing in a different style to those before them. When we think of the stoppage, we expect contested possessions, clearances, and tackles to be the most important elements in gaining advantage in a game. Now this is still true, but not as critical as it once was, and the best players and list management teams are adapting quickly. Let's take a look at the player ratings of two separate seasons. Here are the top 20 players from 2019. 6 of them highlighted are pure inside mids whose main jobs were to get those clearances and contested possessions. Zach Merritt and Dion Prestia are really the only two smaller two-way runners in the top 20 group. Others like Patrick Dangerfield, Marcus Bonampelli and Nat Fyfe are the bigger mids who at the time had outside elements to their game and also spent time forward of the ball. But let's fast forward to the current day. Now this is being recorded in the middle of round 19, but the rating shouldn't be altered too much from what is on your screen. Now these 4 names are the inside bulls that are comparable to that first group highlighted in 2019. Obviously there's 2 less players than 6 years ago. But let's look at the next group. 8 players are listed and all have fantastic running ability and skills and are very mobile on ballers. There are still the Bonts and Heenies who can do a bit of everything, but the ratings show the clear shift in who the best midfielders are in the competition. Those inside clearance players dropped off by 2 compared to 2019, yet the elite runners and smaller midfielders went up by 6 when just Merritt and Prestia were in the top 20 in 2019. It's a big shift in a short period of time to have an increase of roughly 30% of the endurance type of midfielders infiltrating the top 20 rated players. AFL.com looked into this new trend, and the data points towards a key reason why these midfielders are now becoming more valuable than the crash and bash bulls. In 2019, if a side won the contested possession battle, they won 73% of games. In 2025, that rate has dropped by 13% and now sits at 60%. It still shows contested possessions are important, but signals times are changing. We at home or even at the games can see this with Collingwood and Brisbane especially, who both play fantastic transition football, taking the game on through the corridor to score. Collingwood are 5th worst for contested possession differential per game, and Brisbane sit just 7th. Speed is what clubs are after, especially an ability to use that speed repeatedly from contest to contest. Geelong champion Patrick Dangerfield recently explained the type of running that is required to be an elite midfielder in 2025, using Max Holmes as an example. He doesn't test that well, certainly not in the endurance stuff, but if you give him a 5-second break, then he can run 200s all day, and that's the game. The game isn't a 15-minute run where you don't stop. It's an effort, a stoppage, then you go again and repeat. Max's ability to do that is as good as I've seen in the competition. Max Holmes and Bailey Smith are standout players for the new age midfielder with their run and carry a new Geelong trademark. Ed Richards' lateral movement and quick burst has greatly improved the Bulldogs midfield force. Finn Callaghan is another standout from this season who plays with intense speed and angle change when he gets the ball. But perhaps the current king of this type of midfielder is Nick Dacos, fleet-footed, sprints all day and has deadly accurate kicking. He's the new prototype midfielder in 2025. And a quick shout out to Zach Butters, who many of the attributes also relate to. But there is still value in the midfield bull. We've seen Patrick Cripps over time will his side to wins through dominant clearance displays, and the players mentioned before, although capable of winning the hard ball, are often better off receiving a handball from others and are dependent on it. It's why Ned Long has been valuable to Collingwood, helping feed the ball out to the Dacos brothers. Tom Liberatore is one of the best clearance players in the comp and been a mainstay in the Bulldogs midfield. And Noah Anderson has had awesome support from his best mate in Matt Rowell, who gets in and under those packs to give him the ball. These players are still important, but a midfield made up solely of those contested balls doesn't seem to work in the modern game. It's caused these pure inside mids to adapt themselves. Matt Rowell of late has leaned out and worked on his speed. It's been notable at times this year, especially at centre bounces, with his new ability to burst away instead of hat kicking the ball forward. Tom Green from GWS also covers the ground well for a big midfielder, and it's been an improvement in his game in the past couple of years. It's a trend that has taken over the competition. You need a combination of guys, but if you're going to err on one side, I would err on the side of having more of the transition guys now, one leading midfield coach tells AFL.com. Against teams that like to score, you can't play as many slow, dour midfielders because you might need to kick over 100 points to win a final against the best teams this year. It can be harder to score with those guys if they don't turn up to as many contests, so there is a higher value now on the transition midfielders who can run and carry the ball off turnovers. This has seen certain sides adapt better than others. Geelong moving Max Holmes on ball and getting in Bailey Smith has been a crucial improvement in their side. Sure, Dangerfield is still a brute and Tom Atkins is hard working, but the run from the dynamic duo is always a threat. The Western Bulldogs moving Ed Richards on ball last season and giving second year player Joel Frazier some midfield exposure is a signal of yet another side adapting on the run. Those who haven't are the ones struggling. Carlton clearly missed Sam Walsh at his best to complement the inside mids of Cripps and George Hewitt. They just haven't had enough run on ball and skill, despite winning a strong amount of clearances and contested possession. The outside game still needs work. Melbourne are yet to move on from Jack Viney, Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca. All are still solid players on their own, but early this year especially, we saw them burnt in the outside game while all three of those mainstays were at the centre bounce. Keziah Pickett returning after the first month has added at least one dynamic player to their on-ball mix. Even St Kilda recently had to bite the bullet and play Nasai and Wanganeen Malera on ball, and has been a great effect. The midfield now belongs to these types of players who are complemented by the inside Bulls when perhaps it was once the other way around. But former dual All-Australian midfielder Peter Bell finishes off telling the AFL in their article, things can always switch back as the game evolves. The game goes around in circles over generations and years, and it was pretty important a few years back to have guys who could always win the footy and kick the ball forward. Now I think there's a lot more system involved in game plans, so teams' ability to be able to run a system is pretty important. It depends on how the evolution of the game goes. If it becomes more of a stoppage and contest game, you might see the return of a lot of balls. But for now, we can all see the way the game is going. Transition running and the ability to use the ball has become everything, and the best players, especially those in the midfield, are adapting to do just that.